Do you know about the DP Cooper story?
No.
No? So it's a good one. So essentially what happened was is that DP Cooper, right? He essentially hijacked an airplane, like a commercial airplane with like people in it, obviously, you know. So it's regarded as one of like the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. So he hijacked it in I think in like in Washington, Oregon and stuff like that. And obviously, since it's an airplane, you know, hijack, obviously the FBI will be involved. So this case has been unsolved for like almost 50 years by the FBI. So if the
Damn.
FBI can't solve it, this
Till this
guy,
day?
to this day, have not solved it, right? And it's very well known, the DP Cooper case. And the hijacking happened on Thanksgiving Eve, November 24th, 1971. So like I said, the man named, so essentially his real name was Dan Cooper, but like the newspaper or the articles named him the DP Cooper case. And so he boards a Northwestern Orient flight 305 in Portland, Oregon. And the flight was it's just a short trip. It was from Seattle to Washington, just a short trip, right? And apparently, according to witnesses, right, because after the investigation of that, according to witnesses, he was really calm. He was well dressed. He was wearing which was weird at the time. It was like wearing a dark suit with a black tie, like kind of like a Men in Black type thing. And then, of course, he had the sunglasses to go with it, and was also carrying a briefcase. And he sat like in C18C. He then later changed seats in the reports. So he like when the plane is backing up, he was sitting in one seat, and then when it was in flight, he was in another seat somehow, right? So he was changing seats, and that the witnesses saw him order like a bourbon and a soda, like really calm. Like for example, like if you're gonna do that, like you're not gonna be like calm or in soda or drinks. You know what I mean? You're gonna be. Like, I would have been like tripping out. You know what I mean? And the way he does it is like super chill, right? So the way he does it is he passes a note to the flight attendant, and her name was Florence, and he passes a note to Florence, the flight attendant, and the flight attendant ignores the note, thinking at the time that he was just trying to get at her, trying to get her number or stuff like that. You know what I mean? And then and then it's so funny because like she just assumed it was just like another businessman trying to get at her, like I said. But then DB Cooper called her again. Hey, you might want to look at that note, but whispered to her in her ear. And then apparently the note said, um, I want to hijack this airplane. I have a bomb in the suitcase. And then that's when the whole like scenario started happening, right? And then obviously, and then when he whispered, he showed her the briefcase, and then they contain like wires and like cylinders, which I guess at the time it made it seem like, hey, you'll have a bomb. You know what I mean? So don't F around. You know what I mean? And so the things DB Cooper wanted was, mind you, the cash amount from back then is complete because with inflation and everything. So he wanted like $200,000 in cash, which is equivalent to right now, which is like 1.5 million today. So that's a lot of money. I mean, and another thing which makes sense, which he requested was 4 parachutes. He wanted 2 front parachutes, and then he also wanted 2 back parachutes. So just in case, I guess, when he jumped off the airplane, if it didn't, I don't know, if they didn't shoot or anything, like they didn't actually manually activate. And then he also wanted a fuel truck waiting in Seattle for him to refuel the plane.
What?
Yeah, that was weird, right? And so obviously there's a whole hostage situation, so it's like it's seen as like a terrorist act. You know what I mean? So obviously with terrorists, they always like, hey, communicate, hey, we'll do this, we'll do that, just to get, because I think there was like 36 passengers on board. And so as soon as they land in Seattle, the FBI is like, you know what, here you go, here's your money, here are your parachutes, because they were just thinking ahead, like, okay, we don't want this guy to do anything, blow up the airplane or anything. I mean, you know what I mean? And so he just wanted, the FBI was like, you know what, here's all the things you demanded. And then he let go of the 36 passengers, except the people who were flying, the pilots. And so after he received the money and the parachutes in Seattle, like I said, he released them. And then he told the pilots, "You guys fly towards Mexico City at a low altitude." So once the pilots knew about that, they're like, "Oh, he's probably gonna jump." That's why he wanted parachutes. And around 8 p.m. on the way to Mexico City, obviously the FBI and like Homeland and all that were tracking the flight. That sometime when they got to like around 8 p.m., they were flying over a dense forest, which was between Washington and Oregon. And then what Cooper did was he lowered the rear stairs of the airplane, and he just jumped off. And then, mind you, that night they were saying that it was nighttime. Obviously, there was a really bad storm. So obviously, when you jump at that altitude, it was really stormy, hella cold, probably raining, and then you land. Well, he jumped. We don't know if he landed or survived or not, but he jumped off into the forest that night. And like I said, he took the money. He took the two. He actually only took 2 parachutes, and he left the other 2 behind. And the temperature apparently that night was below freezing, and he jumped into 200 miles per hour winds. That's pretty fast. Even though, because remember he said he wanted it at low altitude.
Yeah.
And then obviously it was raining. And when you're looking at an airplane, dude, it's hella dark at that. You know what I mean? At nighttime. You know what I mean? You're not gonna see what's in front of you. And apparently that was the last time they ever seen DP Cooper. And until this day, the authorities, it's still like one of the biggest like manhunts in the U.S. that has never been solved, and there's no trace of Cooper. And obviously, once the pilots, hey, he just jumped off over this area, that's when the FBI just rolled into the forest and tried to look for him. They didn't even find nothing, no body, no trace. Like if he was never there, right? And so there were certain things that could have helped the authorities like find him, right? So for example, so the black tie and clip that he was wearing, this doesn't make any sense, right? So he was so smart to know what to do, but he left certain things to the authorities, where it was like, did he do it intentionally? Like for example, like obviously back in the day, since it was like hella early, they didn't have no DNA yet, like testing and all that. They had so he left his black tie and clip, and on the airplane, obviously they tested it for DNA. That gets later, right? Because it's not that technology is not there yet, and no match was found. Also, because a lot of people back then used to smoke cigarettes.
Yeah.
You can smoke cigarettes on an airplane back then, but not now, right? Obviously,
No.
because it's a flight risk. And so the butts, when the butts that come out of the cigarette when you put it in your mouth.
Yeah.
So obviously they will have trays, and when he was sitting there, he was smoking, and obviously he smoked on the airplane, but somehow the FBI lost that evidence. That doesn't make any sense, right? Lost the evidence, and then this evidence that I'm about to say, it basically means that he did survive. So out of the whole cash that he got, a part of that, which was $5,800 in cash, that was found in 1980, a boy discovered that cash buried near the Columbia River, raising more questions. So he did survive, because how would you dig it if you were dead? How would you bury it? You know what I mean?
So he dug the money.
So he dug the money. The money that was stolen, or the money that was given from the FBI to him, because it was a ransom money. Some of it was found by a boy near a river it was dug up.
Like all of it?
No, $5,800 in cash. So part of the whole ransom money. Right? And then the FBI officially closed the case in 2016, which was a couple years back, not that long ago, saying that they had exhausted all leads. So essentially the FBI was like, we did all the leads as possible. We did all the witnesses. We still can't find them. We're just going to close the case. Because, think about it. It's federal. I mean, they're wasting a lot of money trying to solve the case. So they were like, you know what? We can't find him. This boy really just bamboozled the FBI.
Outsmarted all of them.
Outsmarted all of them. Imagine outsmarting the FBI.
You're going to be incredibly smart.
Incredibly smart. And then almost $1.5 million in cash. But that's the thing. Like, if he buried $5,800 in cash, how do you not know there's more cash buried somewhere? Because think about it. That much money, you're not just going to be carrying. Think about it, right? And that same night, pitch dark, you're in the woods. you're like, oh damn, I know I have a ticking time clock. And I mean, they're gonna be trying to look. They're gonna send the hounds out for me. Obviously, I just hijacked an airplane, so the FBI, Homeland, everybody's gonna try to find me. You know what I mean? So I gotta hide his cash. So what I think he did was he hid all the cash, and eventually waited, and eventually came back and unburied them. What do you think happened? Do you think he survived, or
How long ago was this?
this is like in the 80s, 70s?
I don't know. He's probably still out there. You never know.
You think he's still out there?
Maybe.
Well, if he is, he's probably gonna be hella
Old.
hella old. But thinking about it, imagine this, right? You have a family member, and your grandpa is about to pass away or something like that, right? And it's DP Cooper, and then he's like, "I'm DP Cooper," and just dies. What the hell? And then so because back then they didn't have no cameras or stuff like that, right? So they only have sketch artists. So like for example, like back then they had when a crime would happen, they would like go to an artist that was really good that worked for like the FBI and stuff like that, and then they'll interview the witnesses like, hey, what does he look like? What does his nose look like and all that? And apparently that's what he looked like, right? Obviously it's black and white with sunglasses and a tie and all that, but that's pretty much what he looked like, right? But yeah, like nobody has ever found evidence of him being alive. There was no body, no parachutes were found, just a lump sum of money that was buried. But that, like I said, that was a small portion of the money that was found compared to the whole thing. I really think he's alive.
That's crazy because like in high winds too.
Yeah, in high winds. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like in bro,
That's
you're jumping from an airplane. You have cash. You have full cash of bags. I mean, bags full of cash. You don't think some of that cash is just gonna be flying somewhere, walking down the trail? Yo, there's 5 bands right here. But that's gonna be old money. I mean, because it's from the 70s and 80s and all that. But I really think he did it.
That's like straight up a movie.
Yeah, it's like straight up. And then not only that, so a lot of like famous shows and famous movies have some like symbolism or like are based out of like DP Cooper's like strategy. But mind you, like you outsmarted the FBI, bro. Like you did it. Like how many people actually do that? Not that many. Or if they try to, they get caught eventually. But this guy never got caught. It's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
But yeah, like I really think he's still alive. Like I said, he's probably like old ass grandpa right now, just living life with the money. Or if he did pass away, like we're not gonna know about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, he just and then like I said, it was never solved, and the FBI lost the game. But that's pretty much the whole DP Cooper story.